Okay, so originally, this video was supposed to be about Saturn Senshi's reaction to the Dawn of War 4 trailer and Warhammer fans in general. But for some reason, every fix I used didn't work. I could not get OBS to record any of my gameplay for Dawn of War. It just wasn't going to happen. And, maybe it's for the best. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. So, I guess it's best that I don't accidentally drag her when talking about New Age Warhammer fans. No, instead, this video is going to be about public schools. And all of that annoying noise you hear in the background is actually going to be music I used to listen to in high school. I was skipping a lot of school, but, I was still enrolled. My time was better spent learning on the internet or at the library than it was actually going to school. And I need, oh man, gassy today. I just cracked this fucking Beast Unleashed and I'm already burping my ass off. But when I say that skipping school and going to the library and spending time on the internet was better for my education than going to school was, I really mean it. Public schools in the Western world, and you can say, oh, you're just American, it's just American schools that are bad. No, it's not just American schools that are bad. You can see that when you talk to Europeans on the internet. These people have the same exact insane backwards beliefs as Americans do, just they have higher literacy rates by a wee bit. I mean, the average has gone way down now that they're, experiencing systematic demographic replacement. Thanks, Barbara Lerner Spector. I appreciate your work. I don't actually appreciate her work, but, it's a joke. But public schools, at least when I was growing up, it might not have been the same in the 70s or the 80s because the subversion hadn't been complete yet, right? Schools were meant specifically to maximize harm. And I don't just mean that they became less efficient and that they were worse at teaching children how to read and write and do math. No, I mean actually in order to manufacture mental illness. And it sounds like an insane conspiracy theory to a lot of average intelligence people, but it's pretty obvious to the average person that's not completely retarded that when you have a zero tolerance policy for violence, for instance, which I was a huge victim of as a child, because I always stood up to bullies, I would get into fights, I would get punished for standing up to people who were actively maximizing harm in the system. The schools were designed to protect the kids that did bad things at the expense of the kids who were well behaved. And then when you look at the way they handle, school counselors, for instance, they're all trained in modern psychology, which is meant to prioritize affirming mental illness and manufacturing mental illness in many cases. And if you look at the discourse around parental rights nowadays, it's all about estranging children from their parents, allowing these school counselors and teachers to have more unfettered access to children so that they can have a better influence over the way those children think and feel. Anyone who has any idea of how basic psychology works can look at modern psychological practices and think, wow, holy shit, this stuff is bad. It's really bad. It's evil. It's ridiculous how bad it is. But it's still the standard practice. You can't actually get a license without going out of your way to hurt people and ruin their lives anymore. It's why transgenderism has exploded in schools in America and, everywhere else. It's not just that the social engineering puts out a bunch of incentives for people to adopt this victim identity in order to obtain more social capital. That's definitely a big part of it. But it's also the fact that you have people actively grooming children into having these queer identities in accordance with the tenets of critical queer theory. And it's much the same way the Maoist revolution took place in China. They had red identities and black identities. In order to be a good communist revolutionary, you needed to have a red identity, and all of the children were being indoctrinated into having these red identities, becoming members of Mao's Red Guard. Except here, because queer theory is more effective than, the original critical theory that was based around class, and even more effective than, the critical theory based around race, which is still in play. They still do use that very heavily because it is effective and it has been working. But when you combine that with critical queer theory, you now have Mao's Rainbow Guard. Well, not that Mao's here. I guess you could say the Democrats' Rainbow Guard, right? They have these rainbow identities. You can be, you can just say queer. You could say demi-queer, you could say ace, you can say NB. You could be all of these things. All it takes is just declaring that you're not normal and that you oppose heteronormativity. And you get to be a part of this club. You get to be part of this social order that's enforced from the top down to give you the power to bully others and be morally superior to others, while also being accepted by the system that's constantly tyrannizing others. And it's very easy to see that other average normal people are being tyrannized, that they are being abused. Why would you want to continue to be normal at that point? What's your incentive to stay true to yourself and to do what you can to be the best person that you are when you could just surrender yourself to the collective? It's very effective, especially on children that spend their entire lives constantly inundated with propaganda, to become like this. But queer identities aside, it's not just that the queer identity indoctrination is taking place, it's also just the basic indoctrination into rejecting reality and reason as concepts. So the ones that don't 100% fall for the propaganda hard enough to actually become queer identifying, they still end up going into college and they start watching streamers like Hassan Piker, for instance. Because that's all they've ever been exposed to in schools. It must be true. When they hear real reality, when they hear real news, it can't be real because they know that everything they've ever been taught their entire lives, and in order to be successful in academia, you need to be obedient and submissive. You need to memorize and do what you're told. When you're constantly being reaffirmed by these outside media sources that aren't actually part of the school system, like I mentioned with Hassan Piker, it just makes sense that you would adhere to it, you would seek it out, and you would believe it all because it's all you've ever really known. Further still, I had a small spat with somebody on the Twitter box, and I'm not going to pull the sweets up. I'm too lazy for that. I fucked around too much trying to get this shit started. I only have one day off this week. I really just need to get the ball rolling, so I'm not fucking with that. But this guy identified one facet of a problem. He mentioned that conservatism is high IQ, and the only reason leftists go into schools and don't actually learn that conservatism is high IQ is because schools don't tell them. And that's okay, that's kind of at a surface level somewhat true, that schools don't tell children about the deeper, philosophical meanings of anything that's been written in the past, because they don't teach children to understand any facet of reality. They actually teach children to reject reality. But one of the main problems we see is that they're constantly inundated with propaganda that tells them that conservative people are stupid. That's why they're conservative. Or that conservatism made them stupid. And that primacy bias that's instilled in them through years of public school propaganda is affirmed when they run into someone who's mildly conservative and is of average intelligence. Because I want to make this very clear. Average intelligence people are largely stupid people. They're not even sentient to begin with. I mean, they don't have internal monologues, really. I mean, they might pretend to nowadays because the conversation around internal monologue came around, but these people aren't capable of introspective thought. They're not capable of reason. They're not able to understand most facets of reality. They're not really able to solve problems. They just kind of memorize things and they have pre-programmed responses to stimuli. Now, of course, being an average person, these communist indoctrinated children, that is, they are exactly the same as these conservatives they view as stupid, but they can at least see the stupidity in people that disagree with them. They aren't really able to perceive the stupidity of people that do agree with them, of course, because they've been told that agreeing with them makes them intelligent. Their deference to authority is what makes them intellectually superior to the people that disagree. But the problem still remains that average intelligence conservatives do exist, and they make all forms of conservatism look bad, including but not limited to classical liberalism, for instance. That's literally fascism to these fucking kids. And I know there's definitely a handful of you that are going to watch this video and say, ew, yucky, liberalism is blue-haired feminazis, when literally it's not. Liberalism is actually the philosophy of Christian men killing Christian men in their sleep on Christmas, because those Christian men didn't believe in freedom being the truest expression of God's love for his creation. Like, liberalism is the philosophy of breaking a prisoner out of jail to lynch him because the state didn't properly prosecute him for his crimes. Like, liberalism is the philosophy of making sure everybody has a gun, so if anyone commits a crime, they get shot in the back. Liberalism is the philosophy of people coming back from war, finding that their town was, taken over by authoritarian corruption within the local elections, then breaking into the police armory and arresting all of the police and local politicians, and then being rewarded for doing so. Like, liberalism is the philosophy of rebelling against the state that couldn't afford to pay you your wage after a war, and then being pardoned for doing so, because you were morally correct to do so. But, let's just throw all that out of the window. Liberalism's communism, because communists claim to be liberals, right? Either way, I went on an accidental tangent that I wasn't supposed to. Let me get this into my lip real quick. I'm going to use a little nicotine in my life. Maybe it'll help me focus and stay on track, Because honestly, I kind of forgot. Sorry about the little tangent. I got a little heated there. Just a little bit. These fucking kids, it's horrifying to see what they actually believe, though. And they genuinely believe it. And it's all based on faith and a rejection of reason. It's a purely religious thought. And I bring this up because, not the conversation that I had with that guy who noticed a small problem with, schools not properly representing any type of historically accurate representation of the foundation of conservative thought. That was just a side thing. The real reason I brought this up is because in the same day that I had that conversation, there was a member of Jester Greer's Discord server, her community at large. He's not just at the Discord server, but he's a young kid that's been kind of indoctrinated into having these insane Marxist beliefs. And I hate to see it happen to him. And of course, he gets bent out of shape and beats himself up about everyone hating him for his beliefs. The thing is, I pointed out to him that I don't hate you. I don't hate you. You're 22 years old. You really don't know any better. You spent your entire life being programmed to believe these anti-reality things, to reject reason and to reject reality. It's not you that's the problem. It's the system that made you that's the problem. It's the things that have been done to you that is the problem. Speaking of which, if anyone's watching hasn't heard of Greer, Gregorian Gangsta, Jester Greer, she's my Oshi now. She's kind of my favorite VTuber. I know she's basically a nobody compared to the big dogs out there, but I like her a lot. You guys should check her out. I'll leave a link in the description of the video so you can check her out after this. But this poor kid, he didn't really know anything else. He was constantly forced to believe these things because if you ever push back against teachers in school, you kind of get punished for it. And I did that a lot. I got in a lot of trouble in school for making my teachers look and sound stupid. It wasn't just the fighting that got me in trouble, okay? I was basically, on the edge of getting expelled every single year of school, starting from, middle school. They just can't expel students anymore because of No Child Left Behind, so I just got a 180-day suspension every year in middle school and constantly threatened with, some kind of vague, will ruin your life if you don't start doing your homework and start behaving threats. I mean, that didn't really amount to anything. I mean, I'm still a functional adult. Maybe all of the years of abuse and fuckery-duckery I went through led to me becoming a diet dodge in these my 20s. So I guess they did kind of punish me somehow, but not really. I mostly did that to myself. I had plenty of chances to be successful and make money, and I just rejected it because I didn't value money or success. And I deeply regret that. If any of you younger people out there are watching and you think the investment to make your life better by making money is not worth it, you're fucking wrong. I desperately need money to do the things I want to do. I desperately need money to make the world a better place, and I can't do that because I don't have money. So just a heads up, if you want to do what I did and end up homeless multiple times and spend all your time, pursuing your hobbies, like I loved martial arts, I loved swinging sticks, I would go to HEMA stuff, I would go to LARPing events, I fucking loved it. It was not worth it. I should have just chased that bag, as the kids would say, and I should have just made some money, okay? Make some fucking money. Make yourself financially stable, and then worry about doing the things you love. For the love of God, please do this. In any case, public schools weaponizing human psychology in such a way to manufacture mental illness in their students, to make them as neurotic as possible, to make them as unstable as possible, to maximize the amount of children on SSRIs, which, by the way, do more harm than good. It's just an actually evil system that's designed to destabilize society as a whole. The whole point of public schools stopped being to teach children a very long time ago, and it has been, for the longest time, a tool for indoctrinating children into becoming Marxists. It's why so many people my age stayed permanent children, and I'll get to that point in a second. It's why so many people my age have Marxist beliefs. It's why so many of them are so woefully deferential to authority that they call it the science when you have a religious adherence to whatever the cathedral says from the top down. When any scientifically minded person is immediately going to start asking questions and using reason to approximate truth, it's not possible to fall for the whole, corona bunga bullshit that happened in 2020 if you're a scientifically minded person. It's not possible to come to that conclusion rationally. You must necessarily be deferential to authority without exception. And a big problem with that is all of the people from my generation, not all, sorry, all of the Marxists from my generation were successfully indoctrinated, and basically none of them are mentally stable. They're all mentally unwell, and the majority of them are constantly talking about their mental illness, and they're putting their fucking, disorders in their profiles on places like Twitter and Facey Space and all that bullshit. Like, hey guys, look at me, I'm super fucked up. You should listen to me because I'm mentally unstable. We need to normalize mental illness. Unless you say something that upsets me, then you're crazy and no one should listen to you because you are mentally unstable. The cognitive dissonance is so fucking insane. But going back to the infantilization, so many people my age are permanent children. That was by design. The wealthiest and most powerful people, and Marxists, who weren't the wealthiest and most powerful people, of course, went out of their way to constantly create environments and social pressures to convince people that they needed to stay children forever. Like, my great-grandmother got married at 14 years old. Her dad gave her a fucking revolver, and her 14-year-old husband moved to the city to go get jobs. A 14-year-old with a wife and a truck and a gun just went off into the city to go get a job at a factory. That's the way America was just like 80 years ago. Oh no, more than that now. Holy shit. It was a very long time ago. Now we have women calling themselves 21-year-old minors. And I don't know if any of you have seen that video. I'm not going to pull it up. I think it was TikTok or something, where some woman is thirst trapping on the internet. She's putting her ass out there and goes, ew, these creepy guys are looking at me. It's yucky. I'm a 21-year-old minor. They're literally pedophiles. It's fucked. Or like, hell, how many Gen Xers who bought into the propaganda don't want to admit that, like, all of the girls that they went to high school with dated up to guys in their 20s? Like, that was super fucking normal. And my mom admitted to it. I met a lot of women my mom's age who admitted to having boyfriends in their 20s when they were in high school. They didn't call it pedophilia when a 16-year-old was shacking up with a 24-year-old. because they expected people to grow the fuck up. There's a reason they were kicking kids out at 18, because you're 18 years old, dude. You should have had a job by the time you're 16. You should have been doing shit. You should own some tools and a fucking car by now. But look at my generation. I didn't own my first car until I was like 21, 22 years old. And sure, part of that was economics, and part of that was, my abusive mother, and it was kind of fucky for me, but for a lot of people, it just kind of became a natural choice to just stay a child. People think, act, and feel like children. And it's disgusting. And the worst part is, a lot of people bought into this Marxist subversion of human development, and they actively support the infantilization of growing adults. And I know it sounds gross to say 17, 16-year-olds are growing adults, because they are supposed to be growing into adults rather than staying children, and then a flip switches and now they're suddenly adults. No, you need to force children into maturation. I recall one time when I was 14, we were doing yard work, and neighbors called the cops on my father because there was children playing with tools. Oh no, someone might hurt themselves. That kid chopping down a tree with an axe? Oh no, that's dangerous. Children, babies, shouldn't be doing that. No, actually, 14-year-olds should be swinging axes and chopping down trees. 12-year-olds should be mowing lawns and using hedge trimmers and working with power tools. Like, they need to grow the fuck up. And schools are designed to remind children to never grow up. There are a lot of things in life that are designed around children not growing up, and a lot of it starts with schools. The same schools that got rid of marksmanship clubs, the same schools that got rid of the boxing rings in the gym for when kids had problems, they could just fight each other because teachers would make them put on their fucking gloves and hit each other after lunch or during lunch. That's a real thing that they used to have in the Detroit area that they don't tell you about. That's a real thing. But it's gone now. Why? Why would we have kids fight out their fucking problems and hit each other about stuff? That's wrong. Defending yourself, standing up for yourself, that's bad. That doesn't foster a mind of a person that becomes helpless and desperate for anarcho-tyranny to be perpetuated so that they can be subservient to the state. No, we need children to be helpless. We need children to stay helpless. It's fucking horrific. It's evil. It's horrible. They're pushing shit like the 1619 Project in school. Our literacy rates have been dropping precipitously since I finished high school. I mean, just the sheer volume of children that literally can't fucking read or do basic math is fucking disgusting. And then on top of that, it's not just that they're inefficacious in basic arithmetic. It's that they've been constantly inundated with propaganda, and they've been constantly groomed to have mental illness that's truly disgusting. It's wicked, it's vile, it's evil, it's horrific. Public schools are more of a problem than most people are willing to admit. And even the people that admit that public schools are a problem don't want to get into how bad they really fucking are half the time. Hell, more children are molested in public schools year over year than in Catholic churches. Everyone wants to make the joke about Catholic priests molesting little boys. Haha, funny. 10 times more children every year are molested in public schools, abducted from public schools. This shit happens in public schools more than fucking anywhere else. On top of all of the other fucked up shit they're doing to ruin children's lives and to ruin their minds and to make them helpless, worthless fucking Marxists so that they surrender themselves to a collective and become just cogs in a machine. Which was disgusting because my generation was inundated with propaganda that told us that having a career made you a cog in a machine. Owning a home made you a cog in a machine. That there was this uncaring, evil capitalist system that was just going to commodify you and make you less than human in order to make a little extra money. When in reality, it doesn't actually have to be that way. In reality, what we've been trained to believe and what these children nowadays in Gen Z are trained to believe, that's what really makes them a commodity. That's what really reduces their humanity to nothing. It's fucking evil. And it's really easy to understand. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a genius. I'm literally retarded, and I understood all of this stuff a long time ago. I'm literally retarded, and I still understand this stuff now. And I desperately wish more people could come around to understanding this. But I guess we just can't have nice things, right? This video is getting a little long, and the first match of Blood Bowl is done. I don't want to make this a whole hour. I'm just going to stop it here. You guys have a good one.